Sienna Clark stood under the fluorescent lights of the gas station, clutching 8 crumpled dollars. It was her last $8. Maya's breakfast money. The difference between her daughter waking up hungry or not. She took a deep, tired breath, the kind that settles right into your bones, and turned to leave. But then she heard it. A gasping, ragged sound. Her head snapped toward the noise. There, under a flickering light, a massive man in a leather vest was staggering against a chrome motorcycle. Tattoos covered his arms. A Hell's Angels patch gleamed on his back. He took one wobbly step, and then collapsed, hitting the pavement hard. His chest seized up, then went completely still. Sienna froze. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away. Every warning she'd ever heard told her that men like that meant nothing but trouble. Every fear whispered, "You have a daughter to protect." The gas station attendant leaned out of the doorway and yelled, "Don't get involved. Those guys are nothing but trouble." Another man, a trucker, even grabbed her arm. "Miss, just walk away. You don't want to cross paths with people like him." But another voice echoed in her mind, her grandmother's. "Kindness costs nothing, baby. And sometimes it's all we have to give." The man's lips were turning blue. Sienna didn't hesitate. She ran. She burst into the store, grabbed a bottle of aspirin and water, and spent her last $8 without a second thought. Kneeling beside the dying stranger, she pushed 2 pills into his mouth, lifted his head, and whispered, "Chew. Come on, stay with me." For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, his chest rose. It was shallow, but it was rising. Sirens wailed in the distance. Relief washed over her, so strong it almost buckled her knees. Just then, a younger biker roared into the parking lot, his bike skidding to a stop. He saw the man on the ground, saw Sienna beside him, and his face broke with panic. Hawk, can you hear me?" He turned to her, his eyes wide. You helped him?" Sienna just nodded, her breath trembling. "He needed help." The younger biker stared at her like she'd just performed a miracle. As the paramedics lifted Hawk onto the stretcher, he grabbed Sienna's wrist with surprising strength. He looked right at her and rasped, "Tell them, Hawk sent you." She had no idea what that meant. But the next morning, she would. Sienna woke at 5 a.m. to her alarm, just like every other day. Exhausted, hungry, worried. She split the last banana in half for Maya, put a few crackers on a plate, and forced a smile she didn't feel. A knock came at the door. It was Mrs. Johnson from across the hall, her arms crossed. "Sienna, baby, I heard what you did last night. You helped one of them, a Hell's Angel." She just shook her head. "You're too kind for your own good. One day that kindness is gonna get you hurt." Fear clawed at Sienna's throat, but she didn't say anything. Later, at the laundromat, she folded shirts on autopilot, telling her co-worker Linda everything that happened. Linda listened patiently and then said softly, "Honey, doing the right thing doesn't always look safe, but it's still right." During her lunch break, Sienna pulled out the business card the younger biker had given her. It was a simple white card with just a phone number and a small emblem, a crown with wings. Her hands shaking, she texted the number. Just minutes later, her phone rang. "Sienna," a voice said, "It's Cole. Hawk wants to meet you today. Please." Against every fear, every doubt, and every warning, she went. Murphy's Diner looked normal from the outside, but the moment Sienna stepped off the bus, her breath caught in her throat. Dozens of motorcycles gleamed along the curb. Bikers stood in quiet rows, tattoos, leather, and boots everywhere. They weren't hostile. They weren't loud. They were just waiting for her. When she walked inside, the entire diner went silent. Every single biker stood up as she passed, like soldiers honoring a general. Cole guided her to a corner booth where Hawk, the man she'd saved, was sitting. He stood up slowly, pain clear in his movements, but his eyes were filled with gratitude. "Sienna Clark," he said softly, "you used your last dollars to save a stranger. Not many people would do that." He slid a photograph across the table. It showed a little girl with bright, happy eyes smiling between Hawk and a woman. "My daughter," he whispered, "Lily. She died of leukemia when she was 7. We couldn't afford the treatment soon enough." Sienna's throat tightened. After she passed, Hawk continued, "I started a nonprofit in her name. Lily's Legacy. We help families in crisis, single parents, veterans, people like you." He leaned forward. "You saved my life. Tomorrow morning, we're going to show you what that means." Sienna left the diner more confused, more scared, and more hopeful than she'd ever been. She didn't know what was about to happen, but the entire neighborhood was about to find out. At 7 a.m. the next morning, a sound shook her windows. It was the rumble of motorcycles, dozens of them, then hundreds. Sienna rushed outside, Maya clinging to her hand. Her entire street was filled with bikes, engines rumbling, vests gleaming in the morning sun. Her neighbors started to panic. "What did you do, Sienna?" Mr. Rodriguez shouted from his porch. "You brought a gang to our street. Call the police," Mrs. Johnson cried. Sienna held Maya close, her own heart pounding in her chest. Then Cole stepped forward, holding his hands up to quiet the crowd. "We're not here for trouble," he announced. "We're here for her." A large truck pulled up, and bikers immediately started unloading boxes, food, furniture, supplies. Cole's voice rang out again. "This woman saved Hawk's life with her last $8. Now we're here to save hers." A wave of confusion rippled through the neighbors. Then, recognition. Someone whispered the name, Lily's Legacy. The name spread through the crowd like wildfire. "You helped my cousin in Detroit," one man shouted. "My son's surgery, you paid for it," a woman cried out. "You saved my grandmother's house," another added. The fear in the air slowly melted into shame. Hawk stepped forward, slow but steady. He looked around at the stunned faces. "You all judged us by the vest," he said, his voice quiet but firm. But she didn't. She saw a man who needed help. He placed a hand on Sienna's shoulder. "Now, we help her." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for $25,000. Behind it was a letter offering her a full-time job as a community outreach coordinator. $52,000 a year, health insurance, security, dignity. Sienna's knees gave out, and she sank to the ground. Maya wrapped her little arms around her neck. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Sienna hugged her daughter tight. "Because, baby, we're going to be okay." By noon, the street was a hub of activity. Bikers and neighbors were working side by side, carrying boxes, assembling furniture, stocking her kitchen, and setting up Maya's brand new bed. Hawk showed Sienna a set of blueprints for a new community center, right there on her street. It was going to be named Clark House, all because of her $8 choice. Because she chose kindness when no one else would. Sienna pressed a hand over her heart, tears of gratitude streaming down her face. "Why me?" she whispered. Hawk smiled. "Because you saw me as human, and that's rarer than you think." For the first time in years, Sienna felt hope blooming inside her like a sunrise. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe for more content that reminds us of the power of kindness. We'll see you in the next one.